welcome to part 3 of Kilroy's deep dive on D-Day games. In part 2, we left off with D-Day dice, and now we're starting off with an oldie but a goodie squad leader. We're now down to the small unit tactical or platoon, squad, and individual level combat. Now we're to the squad level, or right in the middle of what I call small unit tactical, which is, in my definition, is platoon, squad, and individual level combat. That's kind of the small unit tactical uh, space, and squad leader is the granddaddy of the squad level games. Uh, was the first squad level game that I played, first one I bought. And I really never got into Advanced Squad Leader, which is what this grew into and is what some people, consider a lifestyle game, meaning that is all they play or mostly what they play, and that's what they live and breathe. Now, this is Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit, which is kind of a rethinking of Squad Leader and trying to put it in bite-sized, learnable morsels. And this Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit 1 just starts with the basics of infantry and infantry combat, and then the other starter kits that came out would go into artillery and some concepts around that, and then they would add on vehicles and tanks and the like. So, but in this Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit, there is Clearing Colaville, which is Normandy, June 6, 1944. And as we saw with some of the platoon level games, you have your background, you have what map you're going to use, and then you have, the turn record, you have this what units are going to be involved, and then you have any special rules, and then, victory conditions on how you win this scenario. And again, we're back to geomorphic maps where you can kind of configure these in different ways and put these together based on a scenario, or you can make your own. That's one of the nice thing about most small unit tactical type games is they lend themselves for either following the scenarios, and there's plenty of scenarios out there, but you can also just do it yourself and make some of your own scenarios and put some counters on a board and go at it. Now, Advanced Squad Leader and Squad Leader to some extent, but primarily Advanced Squad Leader is considered one of the more complex war games and one of the more complex squad level games, because you're getting into a lot of detail. It's trying to account for all the different aspects of what a squad might encounter, all the different equipment and cover and buildings and vehicles and reactions to that, and and terrain and all the different types of terrain and being in buildings and what have you. So it really it can get really complex. In fact, the rules for Advanced Squad Leader come in a huge binder that is very intimidating and kind of scares away a lot of people, including myself. But again, when they broke it down into these starter kits, it became a little bit more accessible. Playing this actually was easier than when I first learned to play this, and I really don't play this very much anymore. I don't play this one as much either, because there's other squad level games that I've gotten into, but they each have their place, and people still play this and still swear by this as well. So anyway, so that is the first of several. I don't know how many you want to call for several, but more than one and possibly more than two squad level games that I'm going to talk about. The next squad level game is Screaming Eagles, Band of Brothers, designed by Jim Crone and published by Worthington Games. Now, this one is a little bit different. It's squad level, but the way that it handles combat is kind of simplified and yet somewhat intuitive. And it's really based on morale. In order to do anything in this game, you have to make kind of a morale roll. Now, at the beginning of the conflict, your morale is relatively high, and so you can do just about anything you want. But over time, you're going to get pinned or suppressed, and you're not going to be able to do as much. And you've got to figure out a way to overcome that and to do the same to the other side in that case. So different system on how it treats squad level combat, but yet not far fetched. And this one was dealing with the Screaming Eagles, so this was dealing with D-Day as well. Scenario 1 here is Day of Days. This is Utah Beach, June 6th, and you can see, as we see with other games of this ilk, that you have geomorphic boards that can kind of be configured in different ways. You're going to have a scenario that tells you what board to use, a background of the scenario, what units that you need to use for each side, and any kind of special rules and the victory conditions on that. And this one only has 5 turns. This is scenario 1, so it's more of an introductory scenario. And and I tend to feel that the more detail that you get, the lower you get on scale, like down to the platoon and squad and individual level, you get less. You might feel like you're getting more of a simulation or more realism, whatever that means. I'm going to use air quotes for realism, but I think you get more. I think it becomes more of an abstract feel of the conflict, right? Because you're dealing with close combat, small areas, and who knows if the action really came that way or played out that way. Whereas when you're dealing at a higher scale, you're seeing a more of an overall view of way the battle went, and you get a feel if it played out historically. Who knows how some of these individual firefights played out. They might be very realistic or very historic, or they might not. And so it's always a kind of an interesting feel. The closer in you get is how I think you become ahistorical or less historical, possibly. But that's just my opinion. So so this has D-Day scenarios in it, and here's June 6th, D-Day, and then you go into June 12th. So this is going to all the stuff after that, and so the Band of Brothers, Screaming Eagles is, I think, definitely is something you might want to take a look at if you are a big fan of like Squad Leader and Advanced Squad Leader, which Squad Leader originally came out by Avalon Hill, and Advanced Squad Leader is now published by Multi-Man Publishing. I might have missed that when I showed those earlier, but if you're a big fan of that, then this system might not be for you, because it does play different and has a different perspective on these type of engagements. But if you're looking for something different and you're looking for a relatively easy system to get into, this is one of the easier squad level games that you can just put down, get through the rules, and once you get some of the key concepts, this plays very quick and resolves very fast. So that is Screaming Eagles, Band of Brothers. Last on my squad level D-Day games is The Last 100 Yards, Airborne over Europe. And if you've noticed, as I'm showing you these different games, I like different perspectives. I like different points of view. If you look at the banner photo on on my channel and read the description of that, that kind of explains some of my point of view and why I try to look at things from a different perspective. And The Last 100 Yards is a series that took squad level combat and kind of flipped it and took a whole different perspective on this. This is it's not as complicated as Advanced Squad Leader, but at least the rules aren't. But the concepts can be, because this is a system that's based on initiative. It's based on whoever has initiative, and then what the other unit can do, or the other side can do that doesn't have initiative, is limited, and it's reactive, and you can only really shoot what you see, and what the other side has done as far as activity that allows you to react to it. And it's a very, very interesting system. It takes a little bit of getting into and playing. In fact, I was a play tester for a few in this series, and this was the first one that I was a play tester for, was this Airborne over Europe, which is dealing with the paradrops. And so you're dealing with a lot of the actions that took place not only on D-Day, but it also covers Market Garden and some of the other type of missions surrounding that. But there is definitely some missions that are covered in D-Day here. This one is June 6th here. And again, you're going to notice another commonality. You've got geomorphic maps, and tells you what maps to set up. You're going to give you some background. It tells you what forces to use. And even the way that they lay out the forces is a little bit different than what you normally see in some of these different games, and the terminology takes a little bit getting used to. Initiative modifiers, which is very key in these type of games. The disposition of forces, that's kind of where they start out or where they come in, and then you have some special rules for the game, and then reinforcements. And in this case, this has withdrawal, and then you have victory conditions. And the other interesting thing about this, it's all based on time. So it's not one of those situations where you have a set number of turns and you've got to like get from point A to point B or eliminate so many units in a certain number of turns. Every time you at the end of each activation, you're going to roll a dice and time's going to pass. And that time is going to build up, and that's going to affect your victory conditions. So how fast you accomplish your victory conditions or your goals, or if you're playing the other side, if you can slow down the other side and let time pass, that is going to affect what your victory condition is. So there's this sense of urgency that's not artificial from a game track or a turn track. It's built into as the game plays. And as time elapses, and what you do and what you accomplish on as time goes on. So again, a lot of different concepts in here. Definitely a different look at squad level combat, and one I highly recommend. But if you are kind of set into the I go you go, or into a more of a squad leader, advanced squad leader type of realm, this one is a little bit of a head scratcher. It takes a little bit of getting used to. But again, once you get your mindset around it and what you're trying to do, there's a lot to explore in this space. So that is Last 100 Yard system, and Volume 2 has Airborne over Europe, which has several D-Day scenarios. Which brings us to the up close and personal combat that is represented in Warfighter, the World War II tactical card game from DVG. Now, Warfighter not only covers World War II, there is Special Ops Warfighter, there is now Fantasy Warfighter that's getting ready to come out. And so Warfighter, the World War II tactical card game, was actually kind of the second in the series after the Tactical Ops game came out. But it really comprises all of the different World War II theaters. There's European theater, there's the Pacific theater, and in the European theater, you can recreate the D-Day landings. Now, what Warfighter does is, again, it's the individual level. You can either have individual soldiers that you build out your team with, or you can have non-player soldiers to build out your team with, or you can have squads that build out your team with. And what varies with it is not only the point cost, but what you can build with it. Like a regular soldier, you get some certain skills with it, and then you outfit it with different types of equipment. You have all the different types of World War II equipment, like here's a machine gun, but you need a tripod for that. Here's a carbine, submachine gun, grenades, all kinds of different equipment or weapons, I should say. And then you also have equipment that you can outfit the soldiers with. And then you can also have skills that you can assign to the soldiers. Now, when they're regular soldiers, you can do that. If they are an NPS or a squad, then you get whatever is on the card. And what you're going to be doing in this game is you're going to have objectives, or missions, I should say. You have missions that's going to tell you what resources you can build out, and that's the point value of buying all those different cards, whether it's soldiers or equipment. It shows you the time, and there's going to be a time meter in which you need to complete this mission, and you has objectives. And this objectives has two. This is first this, then that. So this has two objectives, and you're going to put the objectives in those slots. So slot 5 and slot 8. And then during the game, you're going to be pulling cards from the location deck. Hopefully pulling cards from your action deck that will give you locations and putting down these locations, and your squad or group of soldiers will be transversing these locations to get to the objectives and then knock out the objectives. Along the way, you're going to have enemy combatants that you have to engage, and there might be more than one that might be at a location that you have to deal with. And so it's very much up close and personal combat. In fact, there's hand-to-hand combat in here as well as range combat. And it is very much a card game. You're going to be drawing hands of these, of these action cards here, and be using these to move your soldiers forward. Your soldiers are going to get a certain number of actions to either move or to attack or to play action cards. The action cards might take up some actions, or they might give you some more abilities or let you do stuff without using actions. But you're going to do that and keep moving along this track here until you've completed both objectives or until the time runs out. So, it's again, it's very much in the moment. It's more of a somewhat of a RPG in that regard. You're taking on the role of these individual soldiers here. Maybe individual soldiers, maybe maybe having squads in your group, and trying to accomplish these objectives before either you run out of time or until you're killed, you're taken out by the enemy. And the enemies can increase in difficulty, and there's frontline enemies, there's elite enemies, there's tanks, there's all kinds of stuff that you can encounter in the game. The combat is really not that hard. You're going to be rolling a couple of dice, and depending on what you roll, you either have a kill or a suppress or a potential miss, and you have to roll one dice to try to beat the cover of the unit, and then the other dice is trying to do a hit on the unit. So you've got to kind of do both in order to have a successful attack, either a suppress or a kill. But anyway, that's a high level of this game. It really is at the individual or at the very most a squad level. You're dealing with kind of a team of soldiers here, and you can recreate all the encounters at a very close up type combat situation. So there you have it. Kilroy's deep dive on D-Day games. Thank you for joining me on this journey all the way back that started with Rise and Decline of the Third Reich and ended up with Warfighter, the World War II tactical combat card game, and all the multiple parts to put this together. I hope this was interesting, and I didn't tried not to go into a ton of detail on each one, but even with that, I still went pretty long. So thank you for stopping by, and love to know your thoughts on any of these games or on any games that I did not include because either I didn't have them or I just didn't have the time to get to them. But drop your comments below. Love to hear them. Thanks. Thanks for watching.